A country music legend talking about another country music legend who is now a country music Hall of Famer. It's the wonderful, fabulous Lorrie Morgan today on the Music Universe podcast.
This episode of the Music Universe podcast is sponsored by Aroma Retail.
Both Buddy and I own and love their machines. I use their travel-size diffuser and it fills my whole apartment.
And Matt, their home unit can get your whole house smelling refreshed. And if you have a lot of pets like I do, you definitely need it. With some of your favorite fragrances from resort destinations around the world, there is definitely something for everyone.
Yeah, they have 90 fragrances available for diffusing as room and linen sprays. I know you might like that because the dogs and cats jump on the beds. There's candles and even wax melters. Those are fun.
Head over to aromaretail.com and use code MUSICUNI10 for 10% off your order.
And that is 10 on that 10. MUSICUNI10. Scent your space with Aroma Retail.
Oh, Matt, we're just going to watch her, so to speak, talk about Keith Whitley and her love for him and the great thing she's done, which was campaigning to get him finally into the Country Music Hall of Fame later this year.
Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning, but this is a true watch to the end interview because I think you and I both became emotional. I asked her a question and it took her aback. And to me, it was an obvious question to ask. I said, how did you two lift each other up as artists? And she said, wow, I've never been asked that before. And we go off with the answer, and I think you and I just sat there in complete awe.
And emotional, and I don't know why. I'm just being a sap today, I guess. The kid just turned 12, and I guess as she gets older, I'm becoming more of a wuss. So, there we go. But it was a fabulous interview with Lorrie, and we talk about her upcoming projects, her career in general, plus, as Matt said, off the top, we'll talk about Keith Whitley's induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
The legendary Lorrie Morgan. How are you today, my dear? Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you.
I am great. I've been really, really busy and running around crazily, but I'm great. I've got a lot of fun things happening right now with my career, which has given me a lot of new energy, and I'm just very excited about some things that are happening.
Oh, of course. And we're going to talk on that. But the big news is, of course, your late husband, Keith Whitley, finally inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Going to have the medallion ceremony. And I'm just wondering what I've read online that you campaigned for years to get him in the Country Music Hall of Fame. What goes into the legwork, and how were you feeling when you were finally told that he's going in there?
Well, the legwork is what they say. It takes a village, and there's so many people who fans that love Keith, and not only the fans, but his peers have championed for him, and even Garth, he's like, why isn't Keith in the Hall of Fame? And so many people have questioned that, and it just took a lot of meetings with the right people. My manager, Tony Conway, has worked on this for years to get Keith in the Hall of Fame, and it's weird. It's a no-brainer. So why it had to be worked on so hard was almost a strange question in itself, because he is one of those no-brainers that should be in there. So it was really kind of troubling to me and a lot of his fans and friends and our kids, why we were having to work so hard to get Keith in there. But, and then they say that, anything worth having is worth waiting for. And so I think it was the perfect time for Keith. I really do. I just think it brought his music back to life, and it made the fans and the people more aware of what he contributed to country music at this point, when country music is going through a crazy time anyway. But I think it was well worth the wait. And it was a lot of legwork and a lot of prayer, a lot of social media, a lot of voting, and and it wasn't just me and my manager. It was his family up in Sandy Hook, Kentucky, and people who just kept believing.
And what was that phone call like when you received it stating that he's going in after going through all this?
Well, I tell you what, it was kind of funny because it wasn't a phone call. They tricked me and told, they told
They do that.
me and my son and my daughter were supposed to be there that day too, but she had to work. And they said they needed this meeting at Tony Conway's office about maybe doing a little movie on Keith. So me and my son Jesse were just like, oh gosh, this is great. This is great. So we go and we're all happy, and we go into Tony's office and we're sitting there talking for a while. And finally, Tony says, well, let's go see if they're ready. And I'm like, what do you mean ready? He said, well, they're in the other room for the meeting. And so we said, oh, okay. So we walk in, and he opens these, the doors that are in the wall, pocket doors. And the camera's there, and it's rolling, and there's a bunch of people standing around with microphones, and me and Jesse kind of looked at each other like, okay, what's going on? And they told us right then that Keith was going to be the new inductee into the Hall of Fame. And we were laughing, we were crying. I was kind of thinking this is a joke, but that's how they broke the news to us, which was much better than a phone call.
Oh yeah. Well, that has to go in any movie that does come of his life, that reenactment.
Well, they do that. They trick people. That Charlie Daniels' last memoir, Dear Charlie, they tricked him. They had him come to the CMA offices for a photo shoot, and then it turned out they were telling him, hey, you're going to be announced as an inductee. So
it's
very
so
cool.
Great. Yeah, it's really great.
Well,
really great. You
talk about people who should be in there. Lorrie Morgan should be in there as well. You've had such an incredible career, and you're rolling ahead. I'll tell you. Tell us about this new album you're working on.
Well, I'm working on 2 albums, and I'm really kind of flipped out about them. I'm really excited. It's been a long time since I've been in the studio with my dear friend and old producer, Richard Landis. And I am going into the studio with Richard. We've been talking for the last few days, and we are making an album that is not so much jeered at radio. It's more, it's just about my life, about women, about our strengths, our weaknesses, our love affairs, whatever. Whatever the lady down the street cannot tell you, I want to tell her story in my album. And then I'm also doing another album with my dear friend Larry Gatlin, and we are writing all the songs. And what I can't contribute to the song, we're going in Larry's catalog and getting some of the greatest written songs I think I've ever heard. I mean, he and Mickey Newberry to me are musical geniuses as far as writing. And so we've been getting together and writing, and it all seems like all we do is sit there and cry because it's so real to life. Everything we say is like a title. And, I'll say something and Larry goes, hold on, I'll write it down, and so it's really exciting because I've always been a fan of Larry's writing and his songwriting, just his songs, period. And so I feel like I've gained a new friend. The last year we wrote on the country music cruise ship together this year, and a newfound friendship was born, and I'm very happy about that. He's given me a lot of my confidence back in my own songwriting too.
It
Yeah,
seems to be. Go ahead, buddy. Sorry.
As I said, it looks like you've got a couple that you're going to include on your forthcoming solo album too, right?
I'm sorry.
Your own songs. You're putting a lot of your own songs on this new album that you're working
Yeah,
on
I
solo.
have. Well, I have one song that I know I'm putting on there. And I'm not the kind that's like, well, if it's not my song, I'm not going to record it. I know a greater song. I'm a good songwriter, but I know a better song when I hear it. And and I'm not the greatest singer in the world, but I've got the heart and I've got the experience and the soul, and that kind of makes for a good combination. So I will have a song or two on my album and a song or two that I've written with Larry on. I like to call it the Lorrie Does Larry album, but people think that might be too much.
Well, before Matt jumps in real quick, could there be a possible remake of All the Gold in California? That's my favorite Gatlin Brothers song.
No.
Okay.
There we go.
Thought I would ask. Just thought
There
I would
we
ask.
go. I would love to hear you sing that, though. I would love to hear any female country music singer take that and run with it. That is because I think that's a lesson that I think is hard learned by a lot of female country singers. Is you come to Nashville or you come to any entertainment town and you see how hard the men work, and it's like the women have to work 10 times harder to get half the recognition. And I know that's very, very important to you as well. How have you seen over the years how women who come to Nashville have been treated by the music industry in town and at radio?
Well, we've come a long way since how how it used to be. We really have. I was very, very good friends with Tammy Wynette, and she was, one of my idols and my inspiration. And I always told myself that I will never let anybody control me like Tammy was controlled. And then all of a sudden one day I was the pot in the boiling water. I mean, the frog in the boiling water that couldn't jump out. And I said, wait a minute, I'm exactly where I said I didn't want to be. And that's when things kind of started changing for me. I was like, I've seen it done. I've seen how women get treated. We can have a #1 record and a guy could have a #2 record, but we still have to open for them. And it's kind of, I can remember back when women on the Opry weren't allowed to host. We were just considered literally on the programs, girl singer. And then, Porter Wagner, then girl singer. And it's changed a lot. So I think it's been demanded not just by the women in the business, but by the fans.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'm excited. I want to mention this, buddy, before you jump back in here. You are touring, or you have, I don't know if we call it an official tour, but you have a number of dates with Pam Tillis. One is coming near me. Can you talk about that co-headlining show? And
I just think she's so lucky to be with me.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Great.
No, she is, well, we've become really good friends. Pam and I have found out we have a lot in common, not just daughters of country music stars, but being single parents and, breadwinners and divorces and, deaths and crazy things. I mean, our lives are really quite parallel. And we have a great time on the road. Pam calls it the rolling slumber party. And it really is. We really have a good time. We laugh, we get tickled on stage. And the great thing about the show is that it's all acoustic. And it's part of her band, part of my band. And I sing harmony with her on her songs, and she sings harmony with me on mine. And we never leave the stage. We're on the stage the same time together. And it really is like a rolling slumber party. We're backstage playing Barbie and curling hair. And, we're just, oh my gosh, it's like the old days with Patsy and Dottie and Loretta. And it's really fun.
Well, I was introduced to country music in like 92 through Garth, of course. An aunt started listening to him. And I remember watching CMT and just seeing your video, Watch Me. I just fell in love. And I had to, I bought the cassette. At the time it was cassettes for me, and it was purple. And I finally upgraded. Yeah, I finally upgraded to CD. And I think I have the cassette somewhere still, but that was just such an iconic album for me growing up and listening to that, and then getting into your older stuff at the time too, and Something in Red and all that. Those songs just still hold up tremendously, and I love the production on Watch Me. I love the snaps and all of that. It's just so wonderfully, beautifully done.
Well, that was my very creative and talented producer, Richard Landis. He made us all stand in there and do the snaps on the microphone. It was really funny.
I was going to ask you, because it almost, I play drums and I have a set of electronic, and sometimes they do come with snaps and they sound just like that. I was going to ask you if those were real.
It was me. It was me and Richard and my friend Ruth around a microphone snapping. So, and of course we would laugh, and then we'd have to start all over again. And it was fun.
Oh,
Thank you. That was probably my very favorite album that Richard and I have produced as far as hits go. We've produced my Merry Christmas from London album. He produced that from, we did it with the London Philharmonics. And that is truly my favorite album of all times that I've recorded. But as far as making hits and having one hit after another, Watch Me was definitely the best one.
Love it. And I know that you're working on a new book as well. I don't know if Claire shared that with us, but I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that yet. Is there anything with the book that you're working on that you can talk about?
A lot of scoop.
Ooh, I love the way you say that too. A lot of scoop.
Well, here's the deal. People, I relate to women relate to me. And I kind of feel like I'm at a point in my life where I can share the truth of how I got my strength, how I was so scared of saying no and so afraid of not being accepted, and also trying to live up to my morals in this industry. So there's been a lot of choices, bad choices I could have made and didn't. And some of those people are still around, and I don't care. I mean, I've read Winona's books, and she mentions names all through it, and I'm like, if she can do it, I can do it, and I'm going to. And it's not a tell-all book. It's not like I'm going to tattletale and tell this story. They all pertain to something that made me better or stronger. It's not just I'm getting in there and saying, oh, and then this one time, it's not that at all. But there are some very important stories of my life that people have no idea about.
I love it.
Yeah. And it looks like one of the highlights actually is you're going to talk about your admiration for Tammy Wynette and Jeannie Seely, of course, but also why you never even tried cocaine, which I'm sure was a tough decision back, in that kind of.
Hold on, I got some right now, but no, I'm just kidding.
That's
No,
awesome.
I could never. I don't know how somebody could do that.
Yeah.
that's beyond me, but I had my vices. I had smoked cigarettes for 30 years. So, it was hard for me to quit, but it was just a choice. I was afraid. I was afraid of the heavy drugs.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Now,
I
you
know
think
I've-
I'm crazy now? You probably should have seen me. If I'd have been on cocaine, woo.
that Watch
Oh my
Me video
gosh.
would have been all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, I have one more thing I just wanted to bring up before we let you go, and if Matt has anything else, but you have your own hot chicken.
I do have my own recipe. My husband and I moved down to Panama City Beach about 3 years ago, and we opened a restaurant down there right on the beach, and it was Nashville's Spicy Hot Chicken, which I had a restaurant here in town before. And anyway, we packed up and took off and went to Panama City Beach and thought, well, I'm sorry. I don't know why. I just yawned.
No
Um,
worries.
But anyway, we opened up that restaurant when COVID hit strong. And unfortunately, it closed us down. We weren't allowed to have workers. We couldn't get anybody to work because the government was paying people to stay home. And it just became a nightmare for us. And we were lucky that someone came along and offered us money. I mean, a good chunk of money for the restaurant. And I said, well, if we're not going to do the restaurant, why are we here? Almost all of our grandkids are in Nashville, and my career's in Nashville. And so we got to start the career back up again. So let's just move back to Nashville. And now we're selling the chicken itself at a place in Livingston Steel Coop Restaurant.
Very cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Very cool. I will have to check that out when I'm there for CMA Fest.
Oh,
I
you
can't-
got it. It's only like 40. Well, it's about 45 minutes from where we are, and it's like this little rural town. It's got the town square and all these little boutiques, and
Oh, that
it's
sounds
just
so pretty.
really a beautiful little town.
I love
Now,
it.
I don't do spicy too much. Like, how spicy is it on a level of
You
1 to
can
10?
have it as plain as Colonel Sanders.
Oh, okay.
I love it.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm
because
kind of a wimp.
yeah, me too. No drugs, no spice. I'm nothing.
Oh my God! Do you drink water?
Oh, absolutely. Out of the
Okay,
Shania
here's looking at y'all.
And sweet tea.
and
gotta have
sweet
that
tea.
sweet
Oh
tea.
yes.
Now,
But-
if I drink sweet tea, I'll be up till next week.
Ooh, yeah, that caffeine. I want to wrap this with a question about you and Keith, if I may. And
Sure.
I'm just curious. Again, you should be in there as much as it took forever for him to go in. You should be in there as well. But I'm just curious during that time that you had together as partners, as husband and wife, but also as people in the same industry, how did you support each other? How did you lift each other up? How did you make him a better artist? How did he make you a better artist? What was that dynamic like between the two of you musically?
I don't think I've been asked that question before. I haven't. I don't think we knew what we were doing. We were young. I mean, I was in my 20s, and I knew he was great. He thought I was great. I wasn't going to tell him any different, but he thought I was great. And we just supported each other. When it was his show, it was his show. And I was there. I was in the #1 cheerleader and vice versa. I mean, he would come and sit in at my sessions, and he would always sit back on the couch, and he never said anything, but he'd give me a thumbs up or a wink or a kiss and tell me it was great. And he never tried to step in when he wasn't asked, and vice versa. And we just had a fun we had fun. We were young. we didn't know what the future was going to hold for us. We had no idea how tragically it would end.
Yeah.
And I guess it's kind of like the song, The Dance. I mean, if I'd only known, how the song would, I don't know if I would have done things differently, but we were too young to know. We were having fun. We just loved music. We played it all day long on our guitars. We listened to it all the time. He was a great father. We had great time with the kids. They were both, Morgan was on a ball team, and we'd go to the park like other parents and sit and watch our kids play ball. And so we just loved each other. There was no question of, are you going to support me and am I going to support you? We just knew, I knew he was great, and I had more belief in him than he did.
Well,
I think every Keith Whitley needs a Lorrie Morgan. Absolutely.
Definitely one of country music's greatest love stories.
Thank you for being here and sharing a little piece of that with us, Lorrie. It's been an honor. Thank you so much, and congratulations on all of your projects and the fruits of your hard work to get him in the Hall of Fame. Now we got to work on you. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to leave that up to you. You started, okay?
We will.
We'll start a petition.
All right. Bye, y'all.
All right, thank you. Take care.
And you hear there in the middle there, most of the interview, the sort of meat of it is she's not stopping. She's not slowing down. If anything, she's speeding up. 2 albums, had a restaurant, it folded. She said, let's move back to Nashville and sell chicken. And now they have another restaurant there, and it sounded like in Nashville. It's just, she's not slowing down for anything. A new insider book, and I love insider books like that aren't tell-alls, but they tell great stories. Because I'm a gossip as much as anybody, but I don't like to read salaciousness because nobody else is on the page to defend themselves. That's why I love to read Ralph Emery's books. He tells these stories with such class, and I know Lorrie is going to do that as well. And you heard there at the end, and you were asking me off air, how did you know they told her in a different way? Well, I hadn't read the story. In fact, it doesn't become public. If there was press at her thing, which it sounded like there was, or somebody from the Hall of Fame was just videoing it, that stays what we in the media industry call embargoed or under wraps until the induction announcements are made. What the Country Music Hall of Fame does is it tells the artist or the representative for the artist, in this case, Lorrie Morgan, who will likely accept the medallion on Keith's behalf. I mean, she's a name. She's her.
One thing we didn't
widow,
ask
is widow. Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing we didn't ask.
Right, if she's going to accept the medallion, but I would bet you any money that she is. And if I get to see her over at Fanfare, I will ask her that. But Charlie Daniels had a similar experience. They called him over to the CMA offices. He was down the street at some other thing, and they just walked him over and said, we're going to do a photo shoot. Well, they walked him over and told him he was getting inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, and he just couldn't believe it. So they have this thing of surprising the inductees and their representatives that before the announcement ceremony, and then we have the medallion. One thing I'm not clear on is, at the time of the announcement, are they members or are they not members until the medallion ceremony?
I believe they're not members until the official medallion ceremony. I think it's kind of like the Rock Hall. They're inductees, but they're not officially members until they've.
So the media gets it wrong when they say Keith Whitley has been inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. No,
I could be wrong. I honestly don't know. That would be a question we'd have to ask the Country Music Hall of Fame.
At this point, it's semantics because he's going in. Right. Nothing's going to change that. Who was the classic era inductee?
Oh, we had Joe Galante and
Jerry Lee Lewis. Yes,
Jerry Lee Lewis. Yes, and Joe was a big
And
Big
Joe's a big
producer.
record label guy.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, we need to get Nudie and Manuel into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
So you heard
as well.
Lorrie. She's going to leave that to you since you
Yes.
offered. So you could take on Lorrie and Manuel at the same time.
I
in
don't think I
different
have the
campaigns.
political capital in Nashville. Not
Well,
yet, at least.
You know, it's amazing what social media and online can do these days without money. So I don't know, something to think about. I know we've been talking about Manuel for a while. So maybe it's time for you to get some campaigning going.
When you talk about Keith Whitley, it's just, that is a career, a life and a career cut short. It's like, what would have become as he was entering his 30s, entering the prime of his fame? What would have happened? What would they have become? Meaning him and Lorrie together, and what would have become of the career? I guarantee you, I have a whole list of shows I want to go see. He would have been on that list. I mean, his music is just fantastic, and I guarantee you he would have had crossover success and just been as big as anybody on the planet these days.
Yeah.
And the people that love him and knew his music when he was around, they're right to keep it alive, because his contribution to country music is just so important.
Yeah, and his professional recording career lasted less than 5 years. It was 4 years, 7 months, and 10 days from his first appearance on the Billboard Country Singles Charts to his death in 1989 at 34. And he's was just an awesome singer. And, you know, obviously Alison Krauss, you know, recorded When You Say Nothing at All and turned that song into this massive hit. And, you know, when we were in Nashville, Garth did a medley of 3 of his songs and regularly performs some of, you know, those.
And Lorrie name checked Garth, I think, 3 minutes into the interview.
Yeah.
It's like,
Because
even Garth is like, why am I in here before, you know, you know.
But, you know, that just tells you what kind of influence Keith had in just such a short time, that you've got a superstar like Garth Brooks that's had a 30+ year career. That's like, you know, I appreciate the accolade, but why aren't these people in before me who deserve it maybe more than I do? Because, you know, Garth is humble
and think about what Keith accomplished in just under 5 years to put out those songs and to carve out such an important piece of the country music landscape for himself. I mean, Randy Travis was bringing back classic neo-traditional sounding country, but nobody was writing or singing songs like a Keith Whitley. All due respect to anybody who had a career in the 90s. Nobody was doing that gut-wrenching stuff that you just listen to and you're like, oh, that gets me. Nobody was doing that like Keith.
And the emotion, and the emotion behind his songs. It's like, wow, you know, somebody, you know, he started singing at age 4, so he had a 30-year career, but the professional side of it, as far as the public and being, you know, a superstar, lasted under 5 years. And so you wonder what kind of music he'd be releasing today.
This episode of the Music Universe podcast is sponsored by Aroma Retail.
Both Buddy and I own and love their machines. I use their travel-sized diffuser, and it fills my whole apartment.
And Matt, their home unit can get your whole house smelling refreshed. And if you have a lot of pets like I do, you definitely need it. With some of your favorite fragrances from resort destinations around the world, there is definitely something for everyone.
Yeah, they have 90 fragrances available for diffusing as room and linen sprays. I know you might like that because the dogs and cats jump on the beds. There's candles and even wax melters. Those are fun.
Head over to aromaretail.com and use code MUSICUNI10 for 10% off your order.
And that is 10 on that 10. MUSICUNI10. Scent your space with Aroma Retail.
Well, that's food for thought until the next Music Universe podcast. For today, I'm Matt.
And if that food's some of Lorrie's Hot Chicken, be sure to share that with us.
Yes.
And I'm Buddy. Thanks for listening and watching. Be sure to follow us on social media at The Music Uni, and like, share, and subscribe. And at themusicuniverse.com, you can find the latest news, reviews, and concert information, as Matt's always out there at some show, and I'm sure he'll be at one this weekend. Take care.